Hi, this video is gonna be about CSRF filtering and how do you enable it in CQ. So CSRF, it stands for cross-site request forgery, and it's a type of internet attack that a website can do on your computer. So let me first explain what is CSRF. So let's take an example. Here is your computer, and let's suppose you have logged into your bank server on any tab that you have previously opened. So essentially the session is still there on your computer, and you need not to log in again on your bank server because it has already logged in. You can just open a new tab and do any transaction that you want to. And suppose you are accessing some random website, so this random website, it will be sending a request to your bank server on your behalf from your computer. And if the bank server is not protected by this kind of CSRF attack, then what will happen is that the bank server will think of this request as a legitimate request because you are already logged in on your computer, and the bank server will initiate that transaction. So that is how a CSRF attack is initiated. Let's see how it actually works. So this random website can have this line of code written somewhere in the HTML. So it can be an IMG tag, and in the SRC there's this URL which points to your bank server. Because it's not an image, so it will not show on your HTML, but nonetheless when the browser encounters this line, then it will initiate a new request on this URL. So the URL, it can be like mybank.com/transfer transfer amount equals to something, and transfer to equals to user ID of the person who wants to receive all that money. So this request, it will be generated from your browser, and that is why the bank server will think of this as a legitimate request, and it will transfer that amount to the website owner. Now what can the bank do in order to prevent this? A popular method is to have something called CSRF tokens enabled on the bank server. So what it essentially does is that suppose you are accessing your bank website, and that bank website, it will give you a transfer form. So the transfer form, it can be something like form submit equals to mybank.com/transfer, method equals to any method. It will give you an option for transfer amount and transfer to. So you fill in these details, and the URL that the browser is going to hit, it'll just be like the URL that was there on that random website. But the catch is that when the browser receives this form from the bank web server, it'll also receive something called a CSRF token. This CSRF token is created by your bank web server, and it is randomly generated for each user, so it cannot be same for any two users, and it cannot be repeated. So when you submit this form for the transaction, then the browser will submit the CSRF token back to the bank web server, and the bank web server, it will match that the CSRF token that is received from your computer, it is indeed same as the CSRF token that was being sent on the transfer form. If both the tokens match, only then the transaction will be considered as a valid transaction. And in the case of this random website, just putting this URL somewhere in the HTML, they don't know your CSRF token. In fact, it is randomly generated, so there's no way that somebody can know that CSRF token in advance. So this URL, it will become invalid because it does not have a CSRF token, and that is how the bank server can prevent a CSRF attack from happening. Now CQ provides a similar kind of protection when submitting forms to your CQ server. So let's see the code that I have created for a form. So the HTML that I have written is its form submit equals to hash, method equals to post, input type submit, and value submit. I have already deployed this code, so let's go to our HTML page. Let me just open network tab. So there are two requests sent to CQ server. One of them is for the HTML page, the other one of them is favicon.iso. If you don't know what favicon.iso is, it's the logo that shows on your tab. Now the reason that I have opened the network tab is to show which error I'm getting when I click on the submit button. I have not given any URL in the form, so the form will be submitted on the same page. And when I click on submit, then I get 403 forbidden. And the reason for that is it's a post request. The request method is post, and I have enabled CSRF filtering for post methods. So this scenario is exactly same as what I talked about here. So here the server has a CSRF token, and when receiving a request from your computer, it expects the same CSRF token to be returned from the computer. In our example, the server is our CQ server, and the computer is the browser that is sending the request. And because there is no CSRF token that went along with the request, that is why it's a 403 forbidden. Now in order to resolve this, I can send a request to server and ask for the CSRF token. But I don't need to do that manually, because in CQ there's a clientlib which will do everything for me, requesting the server for the CSRF token, and while submitting the form, sending along the CSRF token as well. So in your page, what you need to do is you need to have this clientlib enabled. It's grenade.csrf.standalone. So this clientlib, it will send a request to the server for the CSRF token, and that is what we can see in the network tab. Clear this and reload the page again. Now there's this request csrf.js. It's for the clientlib that we just included in this line, and the second request is for the CSRF token, and the response for this will be your own CSRF token. Now what will happen when I submit this form? Then it'll be a 200, not 403. And the reason for that is, if I can see in the form data, there will be this CSRF token that went along with the request. So CQ server was able to validate that this indeed is a valid request, and it sends the response as well. Another way of doing this can be simply delete this post from the filter method. What this will do is it will disable CSRF filtering for the post method, but that is something I won't recommend in the production environment, because then your CQ server it'll be vulnerable to CSRF attacks. That is why if you just want to do a quick check, then you can disable this method from the filter methods, but only on your local or maybe your dev environments, but not from the production environment. So that is all about CSRF attacks and how to enable them on your CQ instance. If you have any questions, please post a comment, and thanks for watching.